and they didn't get enough boys, because there are not many boys in the dance department. I don't know why boys don't want to dance, and what they do want to do, but Gray was inveigled into dancing, and he was actually better at doing Baroque dance than the dance boys, the boys who were in the dance department. Although he had come to the technique playing the guitar in the way that people usually play the guitar. You see him in Becky's, Natalie's, let me call it Natalie's DVD, or whoever did it was actually Laura's too. Oh, it's all so complicated. There's so many people, you see, if you name them all, well, there's just one hodgepodge. Anyway, I'm very glad to have Claire here. She's popped in between a wedding of a friend of another Alexander teacher who's teaching in Chicago tomorrow or Sunday, and she was on the class yesterday. So here she is. This is Claire Happel, and she's going to show you the dart procedures as I showed them to Dart. And I started on the toes, she started on the toes, because Walter had come to, you can come now, Claire. Walter had come to Interlaken and stayed with us my second year there in 1966. First year in Interlaken, the young lady over here was in the intermediate division, I think, or a junior perhaps, no, intermediate. In 1965, our first visit, we were invited back when we were invited to teach at Michigan State. And we went back in '66 and had a very nice house, the von Kleiben house, and Walter and Dilys stayed with us for a month. And during that time, Walter very kindly took my university student, most of my high school students, flute students, at 7 in the morning before their 8 o'clock rehearsal. And what I'd found at the time was, well, if he took me up on the toes, and which he did very nicely, he had nice big hands, he's a big strong chap, and you stayed up there. If I picked up the flute there, you pick up an imaginary flute, you can't pick up a harp. and it felt very different from playing on the ground, as it were. And all the students loved it, and they got the idea that you go up to play the flute. You know, well, that's sort of, well, so I thought, well, that's going up is going up, you see, and if you go up, you go up, you go on, you send your head up over your toes. If you just send yourself over your toes and do that, you don't go anywhere. You want to send your head up. And if you leave the ground, you go up even higher, and you land, and your legs just bounce you until you stop. And when you stop, the bones in your legs send your head up. It's just gravity doing its anti-gravity forces. Your head goes up. If it doesn't, you might be in trouble. But and so it started there. But really, once that was fine, I was introducing the Alexander technique to what I'd learned from Dart, from reading him. And I'll show you, this is how I came to it. I thought, oh, this is all, you know, we go through all this, and it's what he's describing. Only he was describing how vertebrates came up from the floor to being upright. And when a child's first born, it's been inside its mother for a long time, all tucked up in fetal. And its first response, as Feldenkrais points out, if you drop a newborn, it will contract its head onto its shoulder. That's the, what am I doing now? Contract onto its shoulders because, because the 11th cranial nerve is the nerve that innervates your sternomastoid and upper trapezius, which joins your head to your neck. And if you're in the tree with your mother, way back sometime, and she dropped you, and you fell and your head was doing that, you'd brain yourself. You'd break your neck probably in the process, and you'd be brained. But if you contract with the head first and curl over, you fall on your back. It knocks the wind out of you, and there you are. So that's built in, as it were. How do I get on? Anyway, well, the fiddle's really beginning, and this is with the other end. But the technique is about getting people where they should be as adults. It's no problem when you get them. It's a problem getting them to bed, usually. If they want to be up, they want to be up. If you don't want to be up, you want to be up. And when you go to sleep in the chair, which fortunately you've all got up and walked around, so you feel a bit better. I'm not going to be longer. She's just going to go through this sequence. And I'll put a word in here and there, or two. She's going to go up again and do what Gray does so beautifully. If you want to see it again, those you just remember this, but you can look at Gray doing it. Now, here we have Claire. Up you go, Claire. Then she starts standing there, and then she goes into a position of mechanical advantage. The reason for this, as I understand it, is when the head is no longer supported from underneath, the back has to work harder, so this puts your back, the muscles of your back into more exercises there. But you're also quadrupedal. As soon as you touch something, you're using your hands like a monkey, or anything else that runs on all fours. But this was called monkey by the students, not by Alexander, who called it a position of mechanical advantage. Mechanical advantage, what for? In order to establish full chest breathing. First you establish the proper conditions, then the breathing takes place, and that's the way you do that. But Dart said that our nearest relatives ran on the back of them. It's like that. That's anthropoidal. So that's how you go into an anthropoidal posture, and you're coming back from here. See, and that's supporting you, but much more lightly than when you fall that way. Just go back that way. And this anthropoidal posture widens you across here in a different way. And then you go on with it. As you come down, as you become more quadrupedal and nearer the ground, so your fingers reach the chair, then your knuckles, then your wrists, and you get farther and farther down, and your back here is working its head off, and there, this is lengthening here, and you get so far that you can actually reach the ground. There, that's a monkey position, or the hands fall there. She goes down knuckle by knuckle, and if this is what I did for the flute, you come back from each knuckle in turn, and your fingers have a spring to them. Even when you put a finger on it, it's that. It doesn't do that. Give me, it's that. Away with you. And there, she's coming up from the floor. When she's there, she turns round, and that's the beginning of crawling. And when she puts her knees down there, and this is where it ended for me, when I showed Dart, she came back, comes back over her tail, and she kowtows, and there's no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet, and there you are, that's kowtow. But as Dart pointed out, we weren't born Muslims, we were born in fetal, and then we became Muslims later on, when we kowtowed. And there, now she's coming up from there, and that's the way babies begin to get up. But when they're in fetal, the marvelous thing about the fetal posture for anybody is if you're caught in an earthquake, get under a table if you can, but get down there, and whatever happens, you're on the ground, wherever it goes, you're going to go with it. But if you're up here, and you're wobbling this way, you'll be over on your tush before you know where you are. You might even crack something. But this way, you see, she can move any way she likes. She can turn in all directions. And the head is weightless because it's on the ground. And the baby's head is rolling. It's just a big ball. As a head is when you're on the table, lying down. Half of your head is on the table. That's just a big billiard ball. And if you can't move it by moving your eyes, well, you're doing something to your neck. No? there she is, she's rolling over, and whoops, now she's on her back, and there she could, dropping her feet, she could be in semi-supine, but she's rolling over, and that's what babies do, and that's how we utilize our double spiral mechanism. She can roll over either way she likes, go on rolling, roll here, and where, there, and now start to come up again, and she comes up by bringing her back over, her tail over her feet, and then tucking one foot under the other, crawl if she likes, and she comes up here. And that is, in a nutshell, more or less where we started off. And then sort of crystallized, as these things crystallized in 1988 what have I done?
She said
hook it up. Oh, yes. Well, yes.
let's just put that
Back on, yes.
See what happens.
Well, and then there's a